Ken McAuliffe, Mark Henninger, Capital Audiofest 2024, Fern and Roby, Christopher Hildebrand. We're going to talk about his turntable because I have a lot of questions. My first question is, who is Fern and Roby?
They are my grandmothers. So Margaret Fern Stakely and Jane Roby Hildebrand.
I love that.
Yeah.
Fern and Roby. It's like my aunts are named Aunt Edie, Aunt Etta. This is old America. Anyway, and that's also sort of what your gear brings to mind is American craftsmanship. So I'm particularly interested in the turntable and your speakers, which are so beautiful to the touch. To the touch, as Art Dudley would say. But tell us about this turntable in particular.
So this is the Montrose Heirloom turntable. It is our flagship turntable. And it has a 28-pound brass platter. It has a bearing that we designed and made in-house in our machine shop in Richmond, Virginia. And it has a motor controller that monitors and regulates the platter speed in real time and makes course corrections once per revolution. It has a Schroeder CB tone arm, which is what it comes with. And what's on it now is a Miyajima carbon MC cartridge. A big part of the design parameters for me was to develop something that was easy to adjust, easy to calibrate for the end user, and I wanted it to look like a turntable instead of something that would fly a spaceship.
And you were going to lift up the platter and show us something?
Sure. So that's the optical sensor and the bearing spindle. And the underside of the platter shows the interrupter wheel and the center of mass gravity bearing. So everything you see here is made in-house in our shop in Richmond.
Is that an inverted bearing? Is that what we would call that?
Yeah.
It is an inverted bearing.
So center of mass, the pivot point is right at the center of mass of the platter. And then the inverted bearing, the overturn bushings, are way down below. So the idea there is that you don't have as much lateral force on the bushings. You have mostly balancing happening. So we have a Nile oil thrust pad, and the ceramic bearing is actually just pivoting right, the whole platter is balanced on that. So that's why we have a really great low friction bearing and turntable.
Very similar to the MoFi Master Deck I'm currently reviewing. Same deal, inverted bearing, balanced at the center of gravity. That's all really, really cool. And what does this table sell for with the arm?
This table is $16,500 with this arm. If clients come to me and they want a phono preamp and a cartridge, we usually work with them on some kind of discount for a package.
Great, and tell us about these speakers that are so beautifully finished. I love this little beveled or tapered edge. Is that for diffraction or is that purely cosmetic? Or?
You know, as an industrial designer and a furniture maker, I've just always enjoyed the dialogue with the history of design. And when I started making this series of speakers, I asked my wife what she would like to have, and she said, I'd really like to have speakers that are like my dad's old speakers. So I really took that as kind of a design parameter that I wanted to embrace. And I also thought about the KLH 17s that I grew up with, which were also sealed boxes. And while they're two ways, and this is a single driver, they were really engineered and designed to go horizontally up in people's bookshelves. So they were the first in the series that I made. I made a large floor stander that was called the Raven, and the Raven 2 was my bookshelf speaker. But what I found is that people were buying them and putting them on the floor. So I made some little teeny stands that kind of kicked them back, kind of like Klipsch Heresies, or also evoking like the Quad 57s.
Right.
And then I decided to go ahead and make the Raven 3, which is a floor stander. And once I made the Raven 3, a lot of people were buying that. But what I really found is that my market for these are for people that are often in expensive real estate markets. They have small apartments, they want hi-fi quality, and they need something that can literally go up on the bookshelf.
So people are putting these in the bookshelf horizontally?
Yeah, I've got clients in the UK, Singapore, New York City, and some other big cities that really like them up in bookshelves.
And what are these list for?
I believe they're $54.50 for a pair.
Wow.
And the stands are $16.50, and they're a recent addition because I started, after all that, I realized how much I liked the sealed box. I felt like the bass was tighter and faster, more nuanced, and basically, I think delivering great bass is the hardest thing in hi-fi. And so that became my focus here. And I put them up on some stands and started listening to them, something I just cobbled together, and I realized how much I liked them as monitors on stands. So in the last 3 or 4 months, we developed the stands for them. They have isolation built into this top of the stand.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And
I've never seen that done quite like that before.
Well, I thought a lot about it, and having the isolation at the bottom of the stand felt like you would end up with something that was not stable. And I also thought that having great isolation directly under the speaker would do the most effective job. Huh. So we're developing these specifically for these speakers, but we also are developing versions of them for other manufacturers' bookshelf speakers.
And you find there's a demand for that?
I think there is.
Wow.
Because I think a lot of the stands that are out there are made with a commodity approach of cutting tube and welding it and then powder coating it, and a lot of them just really reflect that aesthetically. So we're using the same high quality materials that we use in the baffle and the turntable for the base and the top. Then we have the same leveling feet that we use and manufacture ourselves from our equipment rack. And we're going to make a spiked foot version. And then for people who have bolt-on tops for things like the KEF speakers, we'll be able to provide isolation on the bottom as well.
And what do the stands go for?
$16.50 for a pair.
And these are $54.50.
I believe so.
You're not making any money on these speakers.
Well, we try to make 5 pairs at a time.
Huh.
And we are getting better and better at it. So when you do have a product that is not new every year, you can actually get better and better and deliver better value for your clientele.
And you use a Seas full range driver. What's the magic for you in a full range driver?
Well, it really boils down to coherence. And I think that a really great full range driver, you've got limitations on the phase problems of managing multiple drivers. You have great coherence through the range of the full range of the driver in the most important places, mid-range tones, vocals, horns, guitar, all of these places where when there are gaps or combing in a 2-way or a 3-way, you start running into those challenges. So a single driver managing one voice coil is just a really pretty magical thing. There's, like every single speaker design, there's compromises one way or another, and then it's really the trick of figuring out how to overcome those obstacles in each design. So we have a filter in place to help us address some peak resonances that came out of the rubber surround. You're asking the full range single driver to do a lot. So we kind of hit a crossroads. We had to decide, are we going to go back and try to solve the problem with mechanical design changes to the driver, or are we going to use a filter? And my ultimate decision was I wanted to use the filter because any of the mechanical changes that I would have addressed would have squashed some of the delicacy and detail out of what the driver delivers. So our network filter actually helps us regulate that without losing the magic of the design.
Thank you, Christopher.
Thanks a lot, Ken.
Awesome.